I just bought this Yoder Chisholm trailer smoker and it's new to me, but as you can see, it is a secondhand smoker and it's got some rust issues. In particular, the firebox. The firebox has rust all over the outside and the inside. So I've got my work cut out for me to recondition this smoker, remove all the rust, and make it look as new as possible. Maybe not as new as it might have looked rolling off the factory line in Yoder, Kansas, when this thing was brand new in, I think 2009 when this thing was assembled, but as new as possible. And my hope is that by watching my techniques and my process for reconditioning this smoker in this video, you're able to apply that to your own smoker or your own grill at home to maintain it, remove rust, and keep it operational and pumping out good food for years to come. So let's get smoking. Now, you can see on the firebox how it's completely rusted over. The original powder coating is completely gone, or if it's still there, I can't see it because of the rust. Inside of the firebox, let's open it up. We've got more rust on the inside. We've got a lot of rust on the lid here on the interior. So we're gonna have to remove all of this rust down to bare metal. What I'm going to use in order to do that is a wire brush wheel for my angle grinder. This is what I'm gonna start out with. I'm gonna see how well it does. My fear is that it might take off too much of the metal and leave scratch marks. I'm not quite sure, so I'm gonna test it in an area. And if it doesn't work, then I'll have to find some more gentle rust removal solution. But this is the first thing that I'm gonna try. Now let's move over to the smoker body. It looks pretty good from the outside at a far distance. You can see that the original powder coating is still on, but if you look closely, you can see that there's little rust spots and it's got pitting all over the powder coating. So I don't want to necessarily remove all of this powder coating if I don't have to. It's still got some protective capability. If I can, I'm gonna save myself a ton of work and I'm just gonna remove this rust in these little spots, hopefully without destroying the powder coating. I'll finish over top of it with a protective layer. Again, I'm going to tell you guys exactly what I'm gonna use for that protective layer when we get to that part in the video. But let's open this, this smoker up and look at the inside now. So the biggest thing I'm noticing is we've got a lot of rust on the grates. So what I'm gonna do is I'll probably take either a wire wheel to that or just a steel brush, and I'll brush that off. And the inside of the smoker otherwise looks okay. I mean, it's got a lot of smoke buildup, but the metal looks like it doesn't have much rust on it. So that's good. Now, opening up this side of the smoker. All right, we removed one of the grates and you can see that there's this damper plate. I put some oil on it so that it would slide, but this pulls out. You can let more heat in to the cooking chamber, but it's really rusted. And the tuning plates right here, these tuning plates with the holes in them, that's got some rust as well. So we're gonna deal with that later in this video as well. But for now, I'm gonna get started on this firebox with my wire wheel grinder, and I'm going to see how it works. Okay, so I've done a couple of minutes of angle grinding with the wire brush and the angle grinder, and this is what I have so far. I'll bring you in for a close-up. So this is just from doing a couple passes with the wire wheel. It looks pretty good, but if you look up really close, you can still see there's quite a bit of rust in between all of the different textures of the steel. The issue here is that the steel is it's porous and it's not smoothly polished. It's got texture to it, so the rust is still in all of the little grooves. The wire wheel didn't get down into those grooves. You can see this one area where I spent the most time. I used the wire wheel from all different angles and did multiple passes. you can still see there's rust in between all the little grooves and all the little pores of the metal. So I am going to need to find some other way of doing this a lot faster, because if I'm going to do this whole firebox, this would take me days and days and days, and I don't even know if I would even be able to remove all of that rust in the little pores with this wire wheel. So I am off to the store now to pick up some other tools and solutions to get rid of this firebox. I'll peruse the aisles and see what I can find. But first, I gotta get my son because I am looking after him today. Uh-oh, there's a car spun out in the side of the ditch. That's not good. Gotta be careful. All right, here we are rolling up to Canadian Tire, or Crappy Tire as I like to call it. There we go. So I just found this gelled rust removal stuff. I think I'm gonna try it out actually. That might be a solution to my problem for fixing the powder coated surface up. Well, there's something up there. It's like a, what do you call it? Sandblasting little spot blaster. So I might pick it up actually, try it out. I think what I need is like this. All right, so I picked up everything I needed. I probably spent a little bit more than I wanted and got some stuff that I might not end up using, but I want to make sure I have everything I need. So I'm feeling pretty confident right now. All right, we're back at the smoker after that little expedition, and I've got some new tools. I've got this set for my hand drill. My hope is that with all these little sanding tools and the brush that goes, you know, straight, maybe these straight brushes or these bristles will be able to better get into those porous parts of the metal and get the rust out of them. So I'm hoping this works a little bit better with a little bit of elbow grease than the angle grinder did. All right guys, it's the next day and I had to stop last night a little bit earlier because when I started sandblasting, it started filling up my garage with quite a bit of dust. Not a ton of dust and particles, but enough to make me kind of worried. The mask that I'm using, the P100 mask, is pretty good. I think it did a good job of filtering out most of the particulates from the sandblasting media. But I did some more research last night, and now I'm kind of more conscious of health concerns. There are issues, respiratory issues that can happen from sandblasting, like silicosis and things like that. I don't think like there's any silica in the sandblasting media that I'm using or being thrown up from this metal or anything like that. But there's still concerns about, you know, fine particulates and stuff like that. So I'm going to be a little bit more careful, and especially I want to keep things cleaner around my studio. So what I'm going to do in the next few days or week is I'm going to build an enclosure of poly house wrap stuff that you put over top of insulation. Plastic, basically. I'll put plastic all around this smoker. In the meantime, so I'll set up a sandblasting station. I'm also looking into building a simple forced air breathing apparatus. So I bought a hood on Amazon for like 80 bucks. I'm gonna get like one of those inflatable air pumps, and I'll take air from the outside so it'll create positive pressure, and then I won't have any issues and I won't have to be worried about the sandblasting. So, but in the meantime, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to continue on with just using the drill to get most of the rust off. Here is the area that I sandblasted, and you can see that it's more gray. It's more gray than the area that I kind of used the drill for. So there's the area that I used the drill wire brush for, and there's the area that I used the sandblasting for. So it almost looks like where I sandblasted, there's a bit more rust. I'm not sure if that's just the water that I used to clean it up. Could have just caused that again. It looks like it took off more of the material or the rust and brought it down more to bare metal. But also the area that I used the wire brush, even though it took a lot of effort, it still looks pretty good compared to what I used the sandblasting gun for. The one thing I would say is that the sandblasting gun did a really good job of getting into all the nooks and crannies, and especially like into this little hole right here. It blasted a whole bunch of rust out. I can get onto the corners and these welding beads here. Those are areas that I couldn't necessarily get with just the wire brush drill. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do as much of the firebox as I can with just the drill wire brush. That seems to be working okay for the larger surfaces. And then by that time, I should have enough time to set up my sandblasting enclosure. And I'm going to do all the nooks and crannies and the little areas, the little detail areas that I can't get with the drill brush. That is my plan. We'll see how it works out. And then after I'm done the firebox, then I'll move on to the main body. So over the next few days, I'll be wire brushing with the drill the firebox, and you guys will see how it transforms over the next few days. Catch you later. As you just saw, I actually switched over to a new type of abrasive. It's called a flap disc, and it attaches to your angle grinder. I got mine in 40 grit, but you can also do 80 grit. I just wanted something with a little bit more punch, and I used it to take off the large swaths of rust in the larger areas. And then I used my drill brush with my large drill to get all of the little nooks and crannies and corners and everything. So I found that to be a really effective combination. But I still needed to find a solution to get all the little specks of rust that were deep inside of the pitted surface, because with all of the different abrasive solutions I used, even with the flap disc, it didn't get deep down enough to remove all of the rust. Now I know I picked up a type of rust gel earlier in this video, but I ended up using it and it had some spotting when I used it, and it kind of affected the paint job. So I didn't want to use it. I think it uses some sort of really strong type of acid that isn't safe on paint. And also it was toxic, so I wasn't really comfortable using it. So I switched over to a product called Blaster Metal Rescue Gel. It's similar to a product that is also available called Evapo-Rust, and Evapo-Rust also has a gel form, and I think both of them, or at least the one that I purchased, the Metal Rescue, it's a water-based solution. It's non-toxic, and it says it's safe on paint, and the only thing that it removes is rust, and that's the only type of surface it impacts or has an effect on. So I thought I'd give it a try. And after applying that Metal Rescue gel to the surface of the firebox, I covered it in plastic wrap. You need to do this in order for it to work. The gel needs to remain wet the entire time you leave it on, otherwise it won't pick up the rust and convert it or do its magic, whatever it does, do the chemical reaction that it needs to do to get rid of the rust. So I covered it in plastic wrap, and I also went one step further and I taped the edges of the plastic wrap, because what I was finding during my testing is that even with the plastic wrap on, after 12 hours, it can still dry out near the edges. So I taped it off, and that created a complete seal. And then I waited for 12 hours to see what the results were. And after 12 hours, I removed all the plastic wrap. I wiped everything down, washed it with just regular water. It's solvable in regular water, so it just washes right away. And then I looked at the results, and as you can see, the results are pretty good. The gel got into the porous surface of the metal, it extracted all of that remaining rust, and it left a much cleaner surface. So I think this is the method that I'm going to use going forward. I'm going to knock off the big chunks of rust and the surface rust with the flap disc on my angle grinder, the wire drill brush, And then after doing that, I'm going to use a gel-based rust removal to get the remaining rust from the deeper porous surfaces inside of the metal. That seems to be the most effective strategy that I took during this restoration. Now, I do like the metal rescue gel, but it's also pretty expensive. So I did a quick experiment and I mixed just pure white vinegar with cornstarch. I heated it on the stove until it thickened into a gel-like substance, and then I coated the inside of the firebox with it, used the same process that I did with the metal rescue gel and covered it with plastic. I taped the edges as best I could, and then I waited for 12 hours. The results were actually pretty good. It removed a lot of the rust. You could see that a lot of rust had dissolved because it was coming off when I wiped it with water and all of the paper towels. So it did a pretty good job. Probably not as good as the metal rescue gel, the commercial stuff, but pretty good for a almost free solution. Like cornstarch and vinegar are super cheap. So I think that I might use that solution if I had, done this whole restoration project over again. I might have just used the vinegar and the cornstarch because it does a good enough job. The one thing I would have changed though is that instead of waiting for just 12 hours, because vinegar is a weaker acid and it doesn't do as fast a job as that metal rescue gel, I would have waited probably 48 hours for that gel to really do its job. And I might have even done a second coat of the vinegar gel. But it seems to me like it does just as good a job as the metal rescue. It just needs a lot more time. Now for the main body, I did the exact same process. I applied the metal rescue gel and then I applied the plastic wrap. I taped the edges, waited for 12 hours, washed it all off with water, and the results were actually pretty good. It removed all the little specks and spots of rust and kind of dug it out up from the powder coated surface where the rust had penetrated. And it left the powder coating completely intact, did not affect the powder coating at all, unlike that other gel that I originally got that was corrosive to paint. So metal rescue gel, it does a pretty good job. I'll link it in the description section below if you guys want to check it out. And again, I think another brand is Evaporust, which is a similar gel type, non-toxic or less toxic type solution that's more water-based and water-soluble. So go check that out in the description section or use the vinegar cornstarch method, whatever you prefer. Now with all that out of the way, the restoration pretty much complete, all the rust removed, I had to tow the trailer out of my garage. Okay, so that took a little bit longer than I thought it would. I bought this trailer dolly sort of thing that was rated for 600-pound tongue weight, and it worked fine. It was just the back of my garage is on a little bit of a slope, so it was hard to muscle the trailer. Had to bring the truck around, back it up, jockey it into place, and then Jacob woke up. So that's kind of the struggle I'm having right now. I'm on parental leave for the next 3 months, looking after my son, and it's kind of like balancing when he goes to bed for 30 minutes. I run outside and try to get some stuff done, like putting that trailer into place. But yeah, not easy, and it's kind of tough because I feel guilty for leaving him sometimes to go do my own hobby type YouTube stuff. So trying to balance it and make it work. But the good news is I got the trailer in position. So later this afternoon or tomorrow, I can start it up and start doing the seasoning process. Okay, buddy, we're gonna cut some soffit to length, and we're gonna build a privacy screen around our smoker. Sound good? You gonna help Daddy out? Yes, you are. Now, before I got started on the seasoning, I had to build a bit of a privacy screen behind the smoker. We have quite a few neighbors and bottle pickers that walk down the alley behind my house, so I just wanted to keep the smoker out of sight, out of mind. I chatted with a couple of the bottle pickers that were walking by when I was building the privacy screen, and I even gave them some bags of empties. I don't really mind it, but I knew in the future I'd be wanting to sit in my garage and just relax while I barbecue. So the privacy screen would be really important to me going forward. Unfortunately, after a few hours of trying to build the privacy screen and look after my son at the same time, I realized that it was going to take me a lot longer. It was going to take me a couple more days. So I pressed pause on building the privacy screen and just got it started on the seasoning process, because I had to get it done before the end of the day, because it's going down to minus 30 degrees Celsius overnight, and it's going to snow. So I want to get a protective coating on the smoker, because I don't want to lose all of that work that I just did, removing all that rust, and not have it protected. To start the seasoning process, I lit some charcoal with my grill gun. The grill gun is a super fast way to get your fire started fast without creating a lot of startup smoke. It's especially important if you're close to neighbors and you don't want to have a lot of smoke. You just want really thin blue smoke all the time so your neighbors don't complain. If you guys want to check it out, in the description section below, I left a link there, and there's actually a code you can use, STBBQ, to get a discount on checkout if you want to pick up your own grill gun. Now, after the smoker got screaming hot, probably on the outside of the firebox, I checked it with my infrared thermometer. It was about 500, 550. I sprayed down the firebox with liquid beef tallow. I have a ton of beef tallow from all the briskets I smoke with, so I chose to go with beef tallow. But you can also use PAM cooking spray, you can use regular canola oil, or even boiled linseed oil from the hardware store. Whatever you prefer, whatever is cheapest in your area and that you can get. Linseed oil is really popular, actually, because it leaves a really nice bronze patina, has a super high smoke point, and it leaves a really hard coating. And the oil polymerizes, gets into all the cracks and crevices, and creates a really awesome finish that is really desirable. So super popular these days. But again, I use beef tallow because I have a lot of it, and it just makes me feel good to be able to use the whole animal, or at least use the whole brisket, and not just throw all that fat away. And it just makes me feel good, and like that I'm kind of paying money for that fat on the brisket, but I'm actually using it for something useful. So I feel like I'm getting more value out of my briskets. That's just me. And after a few hours of running the firebox took on a nice bronze color, and it turned black in a lot of areas. As I apply more coats of tallow, as I do more cooks on this smoker, it's just going to get blacker and blacker. And as for the main body of the smoker, it also took on a dark black shiny color, which looked really nice. But the main body of the cooking chamber is going to take a lot longer to really polymerize all of that beef tallow on it, because it's cooking at a lower temperature. It's only around 350, 300 on the smoker body. So that's just going to take more time and more cooks, and just basically a lot more time to get that coating set on the smoker body as opposed to the firebox. If you guys are looking for an awesome barbecue community where you can chat with me personally in my private Discord server and chat all about this restoration project and anything barbecue related or life related, it doesn't matter, consider joining my Patreon page. I'm going to link it in the description section below. We're building a really cool small little community there where we all just want to get better at barbecue and just have a good time. So consider checking it out, and I'll see you in the next video. It'll probably be a brisket video, to be honest, and I'll probably get some more beef tallow from it, and I'll use it on my smoker to keep on seasoning it. Thanks a lot, guys. Happy smoking.